Give me a moment. Perfect. And I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. And are you able to see my screen today? Perfect. Thank you,
Yes.
Brendan. All right. So before you're going to see an Alchemer dashboard. Now, one thing that you'll note is that when you first log into Alchemer, you're going to see a dashboard that is probably without survey. So you're going to see something that is a little bit more live and interactive to you. Now, when we're usually working with customers, the first thing that we like to start off with is ensuring that you know your resources because they are just as much as part of your valuable skill set as just as much as today's session is. One thing that we really like to enforce here at Alchemer is that you do have access to our technical support team. They're an available resource to you no matter who you are. And so when we first talk about that, you can always come up here to your help resources. Now, we have a huge document repository. It's something that we are very prideful in. And so you can always come here and search for articles. If there's anything that we have a topic about, you can always search for them. Email campaigns, email deliverability, logic, how to build specific questions, or if you're looking for layout for things, you can always look for our articles here. If you're not looking or unable to find what you're looking for, you can always come here to this no show additional support options. And this is where we're providing you with some of our more important information. So getting in touch with our Alchemer support team. We do have support hours, and we give you the ability to connect with those teams in real time. You also have the ability to submit a ticket to them. And although we say we have these within 5 minutes or within 60 hours, most of these are usually that we pick up the phone within 2 minutes. And the reason why we have 60 hours here is we don't have coverage on Sundays, and hopefully you're not working on a Sunday. But if you are, you'll usually have a little bit of a delay, and we'll have our EU team pick that up throughout the evening. Now, this is something that is free of cost. It's something that is part of your Alchemer solution. And we love our support team and they love working with you. So we always like to ensure that you know that they're a valuable resource to you. If you ever do need to connect with our support team, you can come up here to this little icon, and this is where you can grant support access to your account. They don't have the ability to access your account unless you grant access. And an additional resource that we always like to point out is over here on this left-hand navigation and toolbar is we have our Alchemer University. Alchemer University are short YouTube-like video tutorials. So if you're a self-paced learner, you can always come in here and look at these different type of video tutorials that you can take. You can always look at the cards and see what topics are available. And I apologize for the small font, but you can see here that we have things like an application tour, creating a project, basic actions, basic logic, and style. So you'd have the ability here to self-pace. And although it says register, it's just going to take you right into those video tutorials. And they're anywhere from 3 to 15 minutes long. And you'd have the ability to kind of self-pace as you go through. So you can see here that we have a lot of different topics, things from logic, style, distribution, and you have the ability to kind of go through those as well. Coming back here into our main dashboard, you'll have the ability to create your own folders. You can see that I have quite a few. I'm a little bit of an organizational person, so you can see that I have a lot of different folders where once I create a survey, I have the ability to then organize as needed. As you build out your surveys, you can also star them and add them to your own views. So that way the most important surveys are at the top of your list. You can also change the view of your different surveys so that way it can fit your need. And you have the ability to sort by different filters. And if you're on different teams, you'd also have the ability to filter by those. Now we do different ways in which you can create a survey. And so this banner right up at the top, if you click the arrow, you can see that we have different available options. So first you can create a survey, which will go more in depth. A form is the same as a survey, just a different nomenclature. A poll is going to be a quick and interactive way to ask a single question of your visitors. They typically are creating an embed that you'd have the ability to put on your website. There's only 2 question types available, and you have the ability to provide real-time options. So that way, when somebody provides an answer, they can see how other people are answering at the same time. A quiz will have the ability to put a quiz score action on the thank you page. And you'll be going more in depth on actions in your secondary session if you've registered with Annie and Beyond the Basics. Creating a payment form is going to put a payment action on your thank you page. And at the moment, you'll see that I'll be demonstrating on a professional license. So at Alchemer, we are a license-based subscription platform, and we have 3 license types available. Our lowest tier is called a collaborator license. Our professional is our mid license, and our full access license is our top tier license. So at the moment in time, most of the licenses that are available through the account here are going to be professional, but there are additional licenses that are full access. And so we do have an additional option that would be available to our full access individuals, and that's a 360 review. And that's a feedback process that employees can receive input from multiple people, not just their managers, to provide professional development by revealing strengths, growth areas, and blind spots over time. So that would be an additional option if you see that within your account. In most cases, though, we'll go ahead and start with creating a new survey here. And you're going to see a few different options. Now, the import from Word function is going to allow you to use a Word document to import a survey within Alchemer. There are a few caveats here, though, because there are specific formatting functions that you would have to use with this functionality. Our documentation does provide a specific import sample that you can use. There are limited question types that you would have available to you. And so something to think about when you're using the import from Word function is that it may be quicker to start from building a blank survey. You do have the ability to copy a survey. So if you already had a pre-built survey and you wanted to make a copy, you could do so from here, but you would also have the ability to use these 3 dots on the side of your survey and also make a copy there. We do provide you with the ability to use some pre-built templates. So if you know that you're in one of these industries, so training, marketing, healthcare, you could come here and look at some of the pre-built templates that we already have available, such as our employee benefits satisfaction template. You can preview and see if this is a template that's going to resonate with you. Is it asking the type of questions that you're interested in? Is it using the types of, themes that you're available? Is it asking the questions? And if so, you can start building from this type of template by coming here and clicking Start Building. You'll also find that you have the ability to use a survey that you've already built to create a custom template. So if you have the ability to do that, you can create a template and you'll find them here underneath custom templates. And again, we'll be talking about that in a follow-up session. Most people, though, will start by creating a blank survey. And so in this case, we're going to be talking about our LHD demo survey for today. Now, if you are any teams, we're going to have the ability to choose any of the teams that we want. So in this case, if you are on something like an HR team or your own personal team, you would have the ability to choose that team here. And so that way your survey can be segmented on that specific team. Otherwise, it's going to go on a general, just an account team where everybody would have the ability to see, and we can start building. When we're looking at our survey, we're going to go ahead and start with a page 1 and a thank you page. And I usually like to point this out because you'll see that our thank you page is kind of a static page. And there's a few indications here to talk about that responses are marked complete when they reach this page. So this is what we consider a terminal page in Alchemer. Our page 1 is indicated here. And so there are some settings that you can select by coming here to our view settings. You can see that we can turn on or off things like our page IDs, question types, labels, or metadata. So if you have things such as these turned on in your account, your surveys might look a little different. You'll see things like these IDs, and as you're building out your survey, you'll see question IDs pop up on the bottom. such as these IDs down here. You'll also be able to see the types of questions that they are, such as text or instructions. If those labels are something that you're not interested in having in your survey, you can come here again to those view settings and turn them off. Within these pages, one thing I usually like you to consider is as you're building your survey, you'll want to think about how your respondent is taking your survey. So when you're building your survey, the page 1 that you're seeing is also going to be the first page in the survey that your respondent's going to see. So you might want to consider, as your respondent is taking the survey, where do you want to see page breaks? Now, Alchemer will look at data as it is going to be submitted. So on page submission, we're going to collect that data. So if you have 10 questions on a page, then we're going to have that respondent respond to all 10 questions before our system will render it. So if you have 10 questions on a page and your respondent decides that they're going to answer 5, and then maybe they have to walk away from their survey, we're not going to collect that data unless they hit submit. So I typically will look at where are going to be those points in time where we really want to ensure that we're collecting data. For our page 1, you're going to see these different toolbars that are available to you. So we can add something here by clicking this button, but we also have our question, text media, actions, and library items. And we'll be touching on actions and library items in our follow-up session. And today we'll be focusing on our questions and text media. Text and media are going to allow you to add things like our text instructions, audio players, video players, ready-talk videos, and images. You have the ability to click into this text box here, and you can change things like your bold, your italics, your size. You can do things like add or insert numbered lists. You can bullet. And if you click on the ellipses here, you can see that you can add things like hyperlinks, indentations, add images. We also provide you access to your source code. So if you have marketing materials that provide you with specific CSS or HTML, you would have the ability to include that information. And we also give you your merge code selector. Merge codes are going to be dynamic pieces of text that allow you to pull in snippets of information. And again, we'll be looking at those more in depth at a later time. So in this case, you can always add new text or introductory text to your surveys. Here, looking at our question tab, you do have different question types available here by being able to click this question type banner. We do indicate these by looking at our basic question types, and you'll see things like our radio buttons, radio button grids, drop-down menus, checkboxes, text box, essays, and some of our basic email and date. We'll then break these down into our intermediate question types. And you'll see sometimes that dependent on your license type, you might see these little locks next to these question types. That typically means that you're on a license type that does not have access to this license, and you'll probably need to either look at the documentation to see which license type is available. In this case, because I'm on the mid-tier license of a professional, it probably means that these are available to our full access license users. And then we have our advanced license or advanced questions here. Now we do have the ability to come and look at our question type cheat sheet here. And if you select this option, it's going to allow you to look at our different question types. And so you can see here that if I want to take a look at these questions without having to build them out, I have the ability to interact with them and determine if that's something that I want to be able to use before I building them out. So if I know that I'm looking for something like a ranking question, I can come here and see what those different ranking questions can do before pulling them into my survey. If it is a question type that I'm interested in, I can come here and click use this question type, and it's going to go ahead and pull that into my survey builder. I typically like to start off by asking something like a Likert scale question. In this case, I might ask something along the lines of, how satisfied or how is your experience today? So we can ask, how was your recent experience? Maybe we can say, with said company. So we could do something like company can always spell until people are watching. I'm so sorry. Company, product, we can even see something like our support team. So in this case, we can ask this question multiple ways. Always can spell until people are watching. So we can ask this, how is our recent experience with our Likert scale? And you can see here that we have a few options. We can require this question here on the question level. We'll talk about our question labels later on. We have our multiple choice options available. And with our Likert scale, you can see that we do have some of these pre-built options available. Now, under our common answer library for this specific question, we do provide some other scales available. So if you want to go ahead and quickly change these scales, you do have the ability to do that here. And the common answer library will change depending on the question type that you're using. One thing to note, though, is that you don't have the ability to add your own question libraries. So these are pre-built in, but you don't have the ability to update them. You can add other things like a not applicable, or you can add your own paste-in options. So if you're very quickly building your survey, you can come in here to these paste-in options, paste in a list, and you can click the remove existing options, and it's going to very quickly build out that question for you as well. If needed, you can always add those far left and right labels. One thing I do usually like to point as well is we have these getting started guides whenever you select a question. And if you click on the learn more, it is going to take you directly into the documentation for that question type. And what's nice about this is sometimes it'll tell you exactly what it's going to look like when you use it on something like a mobile device. If you're interested in how question types are going to report or change, you can see how that's going to look here. So a question type may look different on a desktop versus a mobile. You can also see what it's going to look like from a reporting perspective and what compatible charts are available, and also how that question is going to export. Coming back into our question type though, you can see that we have some available options across the top here. So we'll touch on logic in just a moment, but we do have some things available such as disabling our question later on if we have the need to use SPSS variables or randomization logic. We can also add our validation here. So you can see here we have it set to not required, required. Under our full access licenses, we can do something like a soft require. So that way we can initially ask if they want to answer the question, and we'll prompt them again if they didn't answer it, just to see if they want to ask it again. We can also conditionally require this question based on a previous answer. And we'll touch on our layout and piping, repeating, and beyond the basics. We'll go ahead and save our question. And what we're going to do now is talk about how we have question logic in Alchemer. And that's the ability to ask a follow-up question based on the answer that was provided here. So in this case, maybe I want to ask a conditional question that's based on if somebody was dissatisfied with their experience. You can see here that I do have a toolbar that can hover in between my questions, so I can insert something like a question, an additional text media, page break, or additional actions. And so in this case, I can either click this question or this question button. And maybe I want to ask that follow-up question in an essay format that says, maybe along the lines of, what can we do to improve? And so in this case, I can now come back up here into my logic tab, and I can base this question on my previous. And I can say on my logic rules that I only want to show this question based on what they selected previously. And I typically like to frame these questions on how was your recent experience with our company, product, or support team? Is one of the following answers was very dissatisfied, dissatisfied, or neutral, then I want what can we do to improve your experience to show. So when we save this question, you can see here that my logic banner is going to display. And there's a few ways that we can test this. Within the survey build, you can see here that we have this little eye preview icon. And I can come here and say, based on this logic here, if I say satisfied, nothing happens. But if I say dissatisfied, we're going to go ahead and prompt that follow-up question. And so this is how we can do something along the lines of showing that question logic. We can also build out page logic, and that's going to be the ability to show a page of follow-up questions. So I can even do something along the lines of where if I come down here into my toolbar that's available here, I can add a new page break. So I have my page 1, that's my ID 1, and my page 2, that's my ID 3. And the reason why this one is ID 3 is because my thank you page is my ID 2, since that was already in the survey build when we started. And now I can come here and say something along the lines of, I want this to be the branch that is going to be for my satisfied customers. And I could even have a branch that's for my dissatisfied customers. Now you can see that you have the ability to add a page title. So I can even come here and say that this is my branch A. I could add a description that this is going to be for my satisfied customers. That way I know internally exactly what I'm going to be doing with my survey build. So I can keep those internal notes. And I'll be able to show you under the Style tab how you can hide those from your respondent. You can see here that under the page, we also have some additional options, such as being able to disable a page, make that admin only, or we have certain override statuses as well that we could touch on later on. But if I save my page, I can now start adding some questions to this. So in this case, my branch A could always ask maybe some follow-up questions if this is going to be my neutral, dissatisfied, or very dissatisfied page compared to my satisfaction page. If I wanted to go ahead and have a full branch on dissatisfaction, I could say something along the lines of, in an essay question, what contributed to your experience? We could have them answer this question. We could also ask, would you like somebody to follow up with you? And we could ask that as a radio button question. Would you like someone to follow up with you? My goodness. And so here with the common answer library, you can see that these are changing based on those questions. So I can very quickly say yes or no, save this question. And now I can even, on my page logic here, and we'll put that on in just a moment, I can have question logic on the same page as my page that has page logic. So if I say, would you like somebody to follow up with you? And maybe have a follow-up question here that says, yes, I would. We could ask them to provide their contact information. There's a few ways that we could do that. We could do that through a text box. We do have something like a text box list. We have a text box grid, but we also have a contact form here. So I can say, please provide your contact information. And you can see that some of these sub-questions maybe aren't pertinent to me. So title, I can come here and I can remove this as an answer option within my question. So that way I'm only taking in what's relevant to me. So first name, last name, and maybe I'm only interested in something like their email address and phone number. And maybe I only want that mobile phone number. So now I can remove the things that are not important to me. And before I save that question, I can come here to my logic tab and say, I am only interested in having this question show if that would you like someone to follow up with you question has been answered yes. So now we have, would you like somebody to follow up with you is answered yes. But also we need to put our page logic on here. So I can come up here into my pencil icon for my page and say, I only want my full page to show if we have that negative experience on our first page as neutral, dissatisfied, and very dissatisfied. So now we have our branch A just for this negative experience, and we can see that question banner here. Now again, we can test this through the preview mode. So now I have the one question that prompts here versus if I just say satisfied, nothing happens. And you'll note here that across the top, we have some options. So we can view this in different desktop modes. We can record a response. But you'll see here that we have our ignore page logic turned on. You'll want to go ahead and ensure that if we're testing our page logic that we turn this off. Sometimes this ends up as a support call. So if you, want to call into our support team about this, we do get calls occasionally about that. But we'll go ahead and turn this guy off. We'll have our initial prompt. We'll hit next. And you can see that we have our first branch A. Whereas if I go back and I say I'm satisfied, you can see here I just see my thank you page. So that's going to be some of our basics there with just our question and page logic. And so those are some of the basics that we can do when it comes to just question, but also page and nested logic here as well. Please let Brendan know if you have any of the questions there about our logic capabilities. And I know that Annie is going to be touching on any of the piping and repeating that we have in our Beyond the Basics in our follow-up session. Now, when we're looking at our survey build, let's say that this is our perfect survey and we know that we want to move forward with styling it. We can come up here into our Style tab. And we're going to have the ability now to add some style to our survey. Now, we do have some functionality up here where we can look at the device preview and we can say, I want to take a look at my device from my tablet or my phone view. I can come here, and if I have separate languages within my survey, I'd have the ability to take a look at my survey in those languages. And if I had different links, I would have the ability to style my survey based on different links. Coming here to themes, I do have pre-built themes that are available to me. So I could come here and take a look at what those pre-built themes look like. Now, if this is my perfect theme, I can go ahead and say apply changes and go from there. But I can also build out the theme that I'm interested in. Now I can add my own logo by coming here and either selecting logos that are available to me that were already uploaded, or I can use an image URL. Now I know that I already have an Alchemer logo available to me. And you can see here that that's fairly large. So I can come in here and adjust the size of my logo. I do also have the ability to center that and modify that, and also make it to the right and modify that size as well. But I typically like that on the left and then modify that size. I can come here to my background, my page, and my headers, and I can modify those colors. So when I'm looking at my background color, I'm going to be able to come in here and choose my specific color. I can choose my color wheel. I can also provide my own hex code. I can choose from image or insert a web page to be able to pull in my own brand colors. But when I'm looking for my own background color, if I wanted to choose something from here, this is what I'm going to be looking for my background color. My page color is going to be something right in here, and my header color is going to be in here. So now we can kind of see the difference between the three. When I'm looking at my button and accent color, you're going to see that this is a hover over button. Now, the reason why we have this as a hover over is just so that your respondent is able to see that when they're moving toward this option, they know that they're either going to be moving forward or moving backward within their survey. We also provide you the ability to come into your HTML and CSS editor. So that way, if you have, again, very specific styling or branding, you can come in here and provide your own custom CSS, custom HTML, and we also allow you the custom head of your surveys so that way you can provide your own very specific styling. Here, underneath our text, you have the ability to choose your own header text and body text. We can also pull in custom text as well, but we'll typically do that again through that HTML and CSS editor. And under our text options, this is where we can do things like change your call to actions. So we have our back button, our next button, and our submit button. And this is where we can do things like hide your survey title, hide or show those page titles and descriptions. So if you want to have those internal titles and internal page titles and descriptions, you can hide them from your respondents here. We can also show or hide your question numbers and show or hide required asterisks. Under our layout, this is how we're going to be looking at how your respondents view your survey questions. Under the desktop mode, you're going to find that your survey responses are going to be in standard mode, which means that if you have 5 questions on a page, the respondents are going to see 5 questions on a page. You can also have something that is shown in one at a time mode, which means that if you have a question, it's going to go ahead and float that question when available. So if I said satisfied, it's going to go ahead and move me through my survey. So if you have multiple questions on a page, as long as the question is a compatible question type, it's going to go ahead and move them through your survey quite easily. Whereas in our mobile interactions, you're going to find that those questions are typically by default in one at a time mode. That way it'll make it easier for your mobile respondents to move through your survey much quicker. And that's also because you'll find that a lot of our question types have to change in order for those respondents to very quickly move through those surveys. And so if that's something that needs to be modified, you can come here and change that to standard mode or also not mobilely optimized. Let me go ahead and come back to our desktop mode. Under our layout options, we can also show or hide question borders, show or hide the back button. Now, if we do remove the back button, we call this a forward-only survey. That way, they only have the ability to move forward. We can hide the progress bar, and then we can also use default browser icons for radio buttons and checkbox. And we do allow you the ability to modify your widths and sizing within your survey. Once you've made all of the modifications to the survey that you're interested in, you can come back here to your themes. And although we do have some of these quick color schemes, you can come here to your theme library, and you can save this as a new theme. Once you save this as a new theme, you can provide it a name. In this case, we'll call this one my Sandy theme. You can hit save. And now when you come back into your theme library, you would have the ability to come back and select that theme for future surveys. That way you'd only have the ability to create your theme once. You can come back and very quickly apply those changes to any surveys you make in the future. That way, in this case, I have a birthday theme pre-made in survey. That way, if I need to very quickly make those changes, I can. So that's how we can very quickly style a survey within Alchemer. Here, under our test tab, is where we can start testing your survey. Now, we do find testing your surveys to be incredibly important as we want to make sure that they're working, not only from the perspective of you and making sure that it's working from you, but also viewing it from the respondent's perspective. And there's a few ways that we can do that as well. First and foremost, you can generate a few test responses. So if we click Generate Responses, you can do so by coming here and generating a few, such as 25 responses. And you can do so across all branches or particular branches. We can simulate specific geodata, randomly set submissions, or trigger responses. We can also include specific URL parameters. Now, one thing I typically like to touch on is you notice that I did not have any of my questions required when I first made my survey. So I like to come here to my tools, my bulk editor, and this is where I can come in here and select my questions, and I can make all of those questions required in bulk. And that's going to make it easier when I come in here and test my survey. Yeah. So I can come in here, generate those test responses, and I'm going to go ahead and simulate some of my geodata and my dates. Now, while that is working, I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can manually test your survey to provide those test responses. So coming here, if I click manually test my survey, you're going to see that preview and test mode, where again, I can look at different pages of my survey. I can look at different translations if I've translated my survey. I can look at different links that might be available. If I do need to test any of my URL variables, I can record my response, and this is how it's going to come through into my individual responses, which we'll touch on shortly. And we'll look at view comments in just a moment. And again, I can also look at my survey in different views. In this case, I can come in here and I can say, great, my satisfied is working, and I'm going to move forward, in this case, to my thank you page. I can come back, and I can also manually test from that other view where I can say I was dissatisfied. What can we do to improve that experience? We can say, you know, have Sunday support and spell support correctly. We can hit next. And again, what contributed to your experience was unable to connect with support. And again, spell it correctly. Would you like somebody to follow up with you? Yes. And now we have the ability to provide that contact information. I can provide my email address. and hit submit. And I need to provide my phone number. So you are going to see my old phone number from when I was back using landlines. And now I can move forward in my survey. So you can see that we do have answer validation as well in our questions. So that's how we can manually test our survey as well. And then we have this fun feature here called invite others to help you test. Now, what's nice about this functionality is that this is going to allow you to collaboratively work with somebody outside of Alchemer. So they do not need a license to be able to work with you. And we can do that by coming here to the invite other system to test in this case. And we can take a look at this link, and you can again see that we're in a preview and test mode, but we have the ability to come in here and provide comments. So now if they come in here and click this option, they can collaboratively say something like, please change to a 7-point scale. So now you have the ability to provide your survey link out to somebody outside of Alchemer. They can work with you in a way that allows you to collaboratively work on the survey. They can provide their name and their email address and add their comment. And then these are going to show up within the build of their survey. So now somebody who's logged in is going to have the ability to come in here and view those comments. Now, one thing to note is that you're going to have the ability to see the comments that they've provided, but you will not have the ability to send out a chat back to them. So the comments are only going to be internal. You'd have the ability to say something like, I've come in, I've changed the scale to 7 points based on the comment above. You can remove the comments and you can make the comments internal, but you won't be able to connect directly to them or send an email in this manner, but it does allow you to collaboratively work with them. So now that my responses have probably made their way through our system, we can come here to our results tab and we can look at our individual responses. Under our individual responses, you can see here that I've got my test responses coming in. And I can take a look. So this is going to be that one that I just submitted. But also coming in here, these are going to be some of the responses that I've generated. When we look at our responses, we'll be able to see when they were submitted and some of the information that we have provided. One thing I do like to note is if you're generating our responses through that test tab, is that we do generate our open text responses with Alice in Wonderland snippets. So some of the responses that come through here might be a little odd. So one thing to note there, that if you do need to come here, you can edit the page and you can remove these comments. So if you have the ability or if they are a little odd to you, you can come in here and remove those comments or redact them. That way they won't show in your reports or exports if needed. You would have the ability to come to your details tab and see the date submitted, time started, last updated IP address, the language, user agent, referrer, and session ID for your respondent, general response location, and a page path. Now, we do have the ability to set things like an anonymous setting on your survey. And if you do so, we'll go ahead and redact things like your IP address, language, referrer, etc. Under your action log, if we had things like send email actions, Salesforce actions, you'd have the ability to see those. And we'll be touching on that in Beyond the Basics. You can download your response as an individual PDF, but you can also come here and in bulk at the bottom of your individual responses, download all to CSV PDF. You can also trash your responses, mark them as real, or delete your test responses. You can come here and customize your grid. So that way you can see the most important information to you. So if you know that you want to see who would like to be followed up with based on a negative experience, you can come in here and provide that information very quickly. That way you can take action on the information that is most important to you as quickly as possible. You can also filter your view on real responses, test responses, or things like completed partials or disqualified and apply those filters. Underneath our results, you also have the ability to look at things like your reports and exports. So under reports, we do have you can see here that we have an initial report that's already created for you that you can view and edit, preview, or share. You can also create your own reports. So again, depending on your license type, you can access different reports. Under the full axis, you also have the ability to look at fall-off statistics, crosstabs, and comparison reports. Under the professional license that I currently have, we can look at our professional or profile report and standard. Our standard aggregate report is going to allow you to look at your information based on the question types that you have available to you. So in this case, we have our Likert scale. And we can take a look at that information based on the pie chart and the information that we have available to us. We can look at the percentages and our response counts. And we can come in here and look at the information on either a chart basis. So we can look at our chart types and the charts that are available and how we can change those. And if we have our longitudinal information, we can also take a look at that. We can filter our charts based on specific logic conditions. And if we have different links for campaigns, which we'll be going over in our share tab, we can also filter by that information. Under layout and options, if you have reporting values, which we'll be going over beyond the basics, you can add those statistics to your reports as well. We can include disabled options. We can look at answer options for rows that have no data. That way we'd have the ability to compare that information. We can look at our original answer options or reporting values. We can look at grouping answer options together, something that we also call top boxing. We can merge duplicate reporting values. We can order answers by responses or alphabetically. We can modify our sizes and also look at our axis values. You can do this in bulk by coming up here to our report options and reviewing this across all of your charts. And so we can do this via layout, via our answer options, our charts, our grid type questions, and we can also set a language on our reports. You can make bulk edits, so you'd have the ability to reorganize your charts, make full modifications to the different charts that you have, and you can also add in additional reporting elements. You can also add some custom CSS to your charts as well. You can come in here and you can filter out your information by question answers. So if you know that you want to look specifically at how somebody's experience was, we can only look at those who answered the neutral, satisfied, and very dissatisfied. And we can filter down and only look at our data that is specific to those individuals. And we'd have the ability to do that across not only our charts, but our open text answers as well. We can filter by our response status. So we only want to look at completes, our partials, those who are disqualified. We can also include or exclude our test data. We can filter by specific response IDs, by links, or we can create advanced filters. So in this case, what we can do is if we want to specifically look at people who were neutral, dissatisfied, very dissatisfied, but also, specifically answered a question in a specific way. So now we can create complex logic conditions that can look at and filter our reports in a specific way. We can also filter our reports on a specific date range. So we can look at today, yesterday, 7 days, last week, all time, or relative date range. We can rename our reports to look at specific cohorts or filtered ranges. We can segment our reports. So in this case, we can also start comparing our reports by answers. So if we want to be able to look at our experience based on who was very dissatisfied, maybe compared to who is very satisfied. And now we can start segmenting our information in this way. So now we'd have the ability to say, this is who is very satisfied and very satisfied in their answers. And so we can look at that based on who provided those answers within the survey. We can do this by response status as well. So completes, partials, response IDs, by specific dates, links, and again, advanced segments. We can create report styles. So again, you can create a theme. You can add a logo to your chart. You can add your custom colors, so background page. You can modify your chart colors, your title text, question text, body text. And so now you can create your own special report theme. We can also share our reports, and you can do so by coming in here and sharing a specific link. You do have the ability to embed your reports. So if you needed to come in here and grab your embed link, you can do so by doing that. You can modify who has the ability to see your reports. You can make them public. You can say anyone with the link. You can password protect or only logged in users. If you provide this link out to anyone, you can include the following options. They'd have the ability to socially share. So that could be things like Twitter, Facebook. You can allow them to do their own date filtering, allow them to do their own answer option filtering, allow them to do their own exports, and you can also email your reports automatically. If you want to do so, you can include lists of open text answers. You can do a one-time delivery or recurring deliveries, and you can have those sent out daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly, and you can set your cadence. Provide your sent to, your from, name, subject, and message. You can download your reports. So again, to PDF, PowerPoint, Excel, or Word. If available to your license type, you can come here to the insert. You can add additional things like crosstabs. So if you have a standard report and want to pull over a crosstab element into your report, you can do so. And something else available to you is that you have the ability to come in here and do something like cross-survey reporting, where you can change your source. You can choose another survey within your specific account, and you can pull over a chart from another survey into this survey report. That way, if you need to do something like compare an NPS from another survey into an NPS of this one, you'd have the ability to do so by being able to change your survey source and pull that element into this one. Coming here to our results and exports. We have different export types available to us. So we can see here, we have our CSV and Excel. On our full access license types, we can do things like bulk PDFs and SPSS exports. Depending on the question types available to you as well, you can do additional charting types like our max diffs, our conjoint. We also have things like piped data exports. If you select a new export, you have some options available to you, like a download all data now, and that'll pull things over such as all the data within your current build. You can include additional information such as any email invitation or contact fields, which we'll touch on when we go over our distribution channels, URL variables, survey campaign data, any action data within your survey, or sentiment score. If you create your report, you can come in here and you can customize the information that you're pulling over. So you can see here that we're pulling over a lot of that metadata that we're collecting in the details tab of our individual responses. So if you want to cut out a lot of that noise, you can click select none and pull over the information that means the most to you. So maybe some of that response information like time, date submitted, and status. And then we can come and provide the information that means the most to you. So since we excluded this information, we could say something like that, email and phone number. Under settings, we can change our header information. We have some miscellaneous options like making our report public, hiding disabled answer options, hiding empty columns. We can show our check boxes in a specific way. We can come in here and include additional fields. We have specific filters, such as our response status on completes, disqualified, partials, or test. We can only show responses within specific date ranges, such as start dates or end dates. We can filter by response IDs or exclude response IDs. We can also go by specific campaigns. And again, we can also filter by specific logic conditions. You also have the ability to share your reports, again, via distribution link. You can schedule a delivery, and you can do so by a one-time or recurring deliveries. And with our full access license types, you'll also have the ability to set up an FTP or an SFTP option as well. Once available, you can see here that you can download that to CSV, or you can start an Excel export. Here, under our Share tab, I like to call this the meat and potatoes, but here is where you can access things like your primary link. One thing that you'll note is if you ever need to contact our support team, or if you're ever interested, this is where you can find your survey ID. So that'll be available to you here, or if you ever need to look up in the URL, that's going to be your survey ID. That's unique for each of your surveys. You're also going to have the ability to come in here and view your link. And something that we typically like to tell you is if sometimes take the response as if you're from the respondent's view, just so that way you can see what they're seeing as well. So it's always great to test from the test tab, but it's also great to see what your respondent is going to see as well. If you customize your link, some options available to you under the advanced tabs are link quotas, open close dates. You can set static URL variables or languages. You do have some of our campaign tracking links here, and you'll be touching on those more in Beyond the Basics. But I would like to go ahead and go over email campaigns with you. So of our different distribution methods that we have available here, one of our most commonly used is our email campaigns. And so in this case, this is going to be maybe our Q1 cohort. We can create our campaign. And that's going to take us into a 4-step process. And you can see that we're going to start off with an initial email. You can add as many reminder emails as you'd like. You can also include thank you messaging at the end. Coming into this initial email, you're going to see that we provide a lot of example text. And I usually suggest to remove most of the text available to you, except for maybe these pieces. So Annie's going to touch more on those merge codes with you, but you'll see some of the ones that we include are going to be things like your contact first name and maybe your account organization. If the click here to start the survey is not on brand for you, you can double click this and you can modify that link text. We do provide, again, a toolbar available, including your source code if you have very specific HTML or branding. You include images, links, and other information to customize that message body. We have some style and previews available to you here, and we also include plain text backups. We'll go ahead and add just a couple reminder emails just so they're available to us. Under contacts, you're going to see 3 different methods in which you can add context. I usually suggest manually entering yourself as a contact so that way you can test your email campaign first. So you can manually enter yourself and send that email off to you to make sure that everything is coming through accurately. You can use an existing list, but this is something that we can touch on in a different session. And the most widely and commonly used is uploading via a spreadsheet. You'll have a file that you can choose here. And so in this case, I can come to my Excel sheets and my current campaign list here. My file does include a header row. And if you do manually add yourself first, you'll probably want to add yourself as a duplicate, only because Alchemer will remove email addresses that are currently uploaded into the campaign that is a duplicate of itself. And that's just to ensure that we are not sending to the same email addresses over and over. We don't want to spam any of our customers, so we'll remove any duplicates that might be added into the same campaign. We'll hit continue, and it's going to ask us to map our file. So in this case, you can see here that we do provide some of those pre-built campaigns or pre-built fields available to you. So we'll have our first name, our email address, and you can see here that I have some additional fields that may not be available. In our email campaigns, we always provide our additional invite custom 1 through 10. So I can have my employee number as my invite custom field 1. I do have a department available and a region available. I can hit continue. Now, if you have something like 70,000 contacts and you don't really want to watch the paint dry as those upload, you can be provided with an email notification that that is finished, and you can hit continue. Now, mine should be fairly quickly uploaded, and you can see here when those are uploaded. You can view your import log if there's any issues. And now we can move over into our send campaign. Now, this is where we have the ability to set our schedule, and you can do so by coming here to our send schedule, and we can set a set date or time. But we can also click something like send now, and then set a relative date. So I can click send now and maybe set something like 10 days after our last send or 7 days after. Two relative dates. You can do send now and then a date, or send now and a relative date. So we do give you some options here in scheduling. And I'm going to go ahead and move over into a different survey just so that way I can show you our delivery statistics. So give me one moment and this will provide you just a little bit more information. So here under my birthday and anniversary recognition form, I had a live survey that I like to send out to our support team. And when we send out our campaigns, you can see here that I send out an initial survey, and I'm sending that out to 27 people. 10 people completed the survey, and Alchemer will only send reminders to individuals who have either not started or in a partial status. So that way, when my reminder went out, it only went out to 17 individuals. 6 people took it, then 11 people were sent to, and it'll keep going through all of your reminders either until your cadence is complete or you're done with your campaign. You can add additional people into your campaign, and you can see that I did that here. Now this individual took it on the first go. Otherwise, they would have went through my campaign waves as well. So you do have the ability to keep adding or using your same campaign. Now you can get more granular information by coming here to your export contacts with send status. And this is going to allow you to pull your status log. And if you come in here, it's going to give you some more information. So the nice thing about email campaigns is that they provide you duplicate protection, save and continue functionality. And you can see here that we actually have a little bit more response tracking. We can see who's complete, who's a partial, who's not started. We can see if our contacts are active, if maybe they've unsubscribed. We can see if they have clicked the link within the email. So we don't actually do email tracking specifically, but we can do link tracking within the email. We can see if they've clicked on the initial or if they've clicked on any of the reminders. What makes these unique is here under their invite link, we have this SGUID variable, and this is what's going to add that duplicate protection, that save and continue functionality, and makes it unique for each contact. We can track this back to their specific response ID. And if we're uploading any of that metadata about those individuals, we'll also be able to see that within this file. Now, this will become relevant later on because you will have the ability to use this for things like logic within the build of your survey. Here under the advanced settings, though, you do have the ability to modify your campaign name, any of your link behaviors. You can close your links, have link close messaging, modify your language settings. And if you do need to modify your CAN spam address, you can do that here as well. You can manage your addresses and you can manage some of your CAN spam in case you're sending on behalf of another client. Just to point this out, in the build of your survey, you would have the ability to pull in some of that information. And let's say that you wanted to show or hide specific pages based on the information that you were using, you could do so with logic. So I know we have about 5 minutes left. This was really what I wanted to wrap up with us today. And I know it's not a lot of time for questions, but if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Hopefully there might be some in the chat, but if not, we'd be more than happy to take those after. But hopefully you guys have learned a lot and have touched on a lot of topics that you might have been interested in today.
Thanks, Alchemer team. There is one in the chat that I think we'll have just enough time to answer. Brittany asked, for the standard survey, is there a way that people can get a link or something that allows them to come back at another time to finish a survey that they started?
Absolutely. So we do have a save and continue functionality. It is one of our toolbar functionalities. I can quickly show that to you. Let me share my screen just a moment. Now, Annie might be touching on this in one of our follow-up sessions and beyond the basics, but just for a moment, here under our tools, and I believe it's our response settings, This is where we can come into something like our survey toolbar, and we have our save and continue. So this is going to allow our respondents to save their progress and return to their survey later. Now, if we are using something like our email campaigns, that is functionality that is already built in. So if they take their link, they kind of move through their survey, maybe they need to fall off. Within that email campaign link, they would have the ability to then come back, click their email campaign link, and move forward from where they left off. If they're not using that email campaign functionality, this is likely where you're going to want to use this save and continue functionality.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions before I wrap us up? Feel free to raise your hand or throw another one in the chat. Oh, well, I just got a notification that the breakout room is going to close in a minute. So I'll do my little spiel. Um, as Emil mentioned, Annie is going to be doing a Beyond the Basics in Alchemer during our afternoon session. So if you want to expand your Alchemer knowledge even more, dive a little deeper, that'll be available. And we're going to get Kit back into the big room. Jessica will give us some little like wrap up and logistics instructions, and then we're going to break for lunch before we have our afternoon sessions. So thank you again to Emma and Brendan, and a little preemptive thank you to Annie, our Alchemer team, for doing this presentation.
Perfect. Thank you all. It was wonderful to be here with you today.
Just a second here to get settled. All right, looks like our number is slowing down. So welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your morning breakout session. I know I did. I was saying that I'm sad that I don't have more time immediately to go play around on on the dashboard. So I hope that you found something and you noted something down that you're excited to learn more about, or a next step, an action step that you're going to take. We are going to go ahead and transition into lunch. So we're only going to be here for a minute, but I just wanted to say again, thank you for moving into breakouts and navigating the Zoom technology with our team. And we are going to be doing this again this afternoon. For now, we have a lunch break of about 45 minutes. So this is your time to grab a snack, move your body, take care of any pressing work things, and we'll start up at 1:15. We will be starting back in the main room together with a featured session, which I'm really excited about. I mentioned before, it's a couple of my colleagues from the Wichita State Community Engagement Institute. I'm looking forward to introducing them after the lunch break. And if you are sad that you missed one of the sessions this morning because you can't be in two places at once, as a reminder, we are recording sessions and they'll be uploaded to the local health department Academy of Science website in the near future. So don't worry, I'm going to have to go find some of those recordings as well. But I don't think there's anything else. We're going to leave this room open. Our team is going to also go off camera, grab some lunch, move our bodies, but we will be checking in, getting closer to the time. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat and we'll get back to them as soon as possible. And if not, I will come off camera after I get something to eat and move around a bit, and then you'll know that I am back. Emily, or is there anybody else from the conference planning committee? Is there anything important that I missed before we say have a great lunch?
I just put in the chat the pre-conference recording, so if those people came late and want to listen to it during lunch, right there in the chat for you.
You are fast, Jake. Okay. Well,
I think the only other thing I would say is, since all of us are going to take our breaks as well, if you jump off and get back on and are in the waiting room, don't worry. We'll let you in as we see you, but you're welcome to hang out here and just turn off your camera, or wait in the waiting room when you come back.
Thanks, Emily.
I'll also hang on for 5 or 10 minutes if someone has a state-specific chapter question or anything. I don't mind answering while we wait before we are going to close it down though, right?
No, we're going to leave the meeting
No,
room
we're going to keep it open.
We're just going to keep it open on this slide. So you can go dark on your screen if you would like. That is my plan. And I will come back on camera when I'm back. But everybody have a great lunch. And we will see you back here in 45 minutes at 1:15 Eastern Time.
Awesome. If if you have any questions before I can go take my lunch as well, but if anybody has any questions, I know I've gotten a few different emails about wanting to sync on different states or efforts. Awesome. Well, I'll go enjoy my lunch then.